What's happening? I think I'm about to do a podcast tonight.
Hey yo, regardless of rain or snow, sleet or hail.
And the way I'm talking today, I might just get banned from TV. I don't know. I might feel like NORE feels right now, because it seems like he's been banned from TV. Not really, but he's just a little upset. But that's not going to be the first thing I talk about. I promise you. But let's vibe out to NORE.
Make me go extra hard.
I mean, that's not NORE rapping, but, banned from TV. There's a theme here. I promise you, there's a theme here. But we got a good show for y'all, man. I'm going to open up actually talking about Black Wall Street, the Tulsa Massacre. I'm going to talk about what is the culture. I'm going to talk about how our culture is so much more than what we make it out to be. I'm going to talk about cop accountability. I'm going to talk about creep accountability. I'm going to talk about gun control. I'm going to talk about the playoffs. And I'm going to talk about the NIL. I think those are all important things to talk about. Before we talk about anything, though, allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is The Big Baby, and I'm back. Ah, dang, I'm messing up. I'm acting like my sensation over here. I'm pressing the buttons in the wrong order. Hold on. Hey, it's the Big Baby, and I'm back. There we go. Now we've got a show going. All right, man. Let's talk about the Tulsa Massacre, Black Wall Street, should we? So it happened May 31st and June 1st, back in 1921. So we're celebrating 101 years. Not celebrating. God, no, we're mourning 101 years of this tragic incident. And last year, I was actually able to go to Black Wall Street and see what was left of it. One building left. And the saddest part about only one building being left from the original massacre is that it's been gentrified. So after it was taken from us and we were killed, it looks like we never got the opportunity to keep it. And you know what? Sometimes that's the economics. California just came out. They had like a reparations committee come out and discuss what the impacts of slavery had on Black people. I haven't read it yet, so I'm not going to speak to it on this podcast, but it's coming. But it's really sad, man. The last time I was here, on the Big Baby's podcast, and I was talking about like who protects Black people, or maybe that was 2 pods ago. You go back, well, damn, nobody has for a long time. And to sit back and think about, the demise of Black Wall Street, just think today, the idea of a Black Wall Street. It's absolutely crazy. But we've had it. It takes me to Killer Mike's his Netflix show, where he went through multiple days, multiple weeks trying to support himself on Black-owned entities and how much of a struggle it was. And we once had it in Tulsa. And when you hear these stories about it's America, work hard and you can get it, I go, man, look at this. They had it. And it was taken away. For what reason? I can't see a reason that's not skin color. I can't see a reason that's not hate. I can't see a reason that's not jealousy. You understand what I'm saying? So sometimes in life, when we're going through things, when Black people are experiencing life and somebody says, hey, just work harder, it goes like, history tells me that does not equate to success. We don't live in the same meritocracy that you non-black person live in. And maybe these traumas of all of these chaotic events that have stripped us from our belief in society have driven us to a place that is counterculture, and we call it the culture. What is the culture? I hear it now so often. Oh, that's the culture. Oh, that ain't culture. And every time I hear culture, I think of the Migos album and Offset and Cardi B's Kid. Forgive me, but that's what I hear when I hear people talk about the culture. But I know what they're truly talking about is black culture. And oftentimes they say these things and I go, can't relate, but if that's what we're saying, then let's go for it, you know? But like, while I got this band from TV playing in the background, I'm gonna get to some NORE tweets, because I think these NORE tweets are very important because he's talking about the culture. And if you get nothing from this segment, I want you to understand that trying to put black culture into one box and make it one thing is wrong on you. Like, I really want you to know that, like, because some of these things that I'm going to talk about and what's talking about the culture, I can't totally relate to that culture because it's not my lived experience. But I will tell you, it doesn't make me more or less than. But let's get to it. No, that's not the one I want to see. Here we go. I've been the best of this culture. I've always put hip hop first, and I see you guys go to Ellen and Dave Letterman and Zane Lowe's and treat them with more respect than the culture. But you say you want black excellence. I'm gonna be honest. Even going to Oprah or Gail, it's trash at this point. We control our own culture. Why go outside of it? He said in, but I'm pretty sure he meant on. I'm just going to assume that there. David Letterman is my favorite, but man, why go there or Ellen before $1 million worth of Game or Joe or the Champs or even Twitter shit? And so I read all of that and I go, okay, you're bitter, you're upset, but let's get down to the crux of what's going on here. You see people who you would like to interview go to different platforms and do interviews instead of doing them with you. On the surface, you go, okay, they're trying to diversify their audience. So they're already accepted in hip hop. They already do well in hip hop. Why in the hell would I go do a hip hop? Why would I do an interview on a hip hop platform? I'm trying to cross over to a mainstream platform, a daytime TV platform, a nighttime TV platform that spans further and is more diverse than your platform. That's just my initial thought. And then as I play with it a little bit more everybody who says they're about black excellence are not about black excellence. They're about their own black excellence. And so many of us have been brainwashed to believe that black excellence is acceptance into white excellence. It's like, oh, I finally made it. Nigga, we made it, right? So when that is the bar that you set, you go that David Letterman is the bar, right? When you have that thought, it's like Ellen DeGeneres. Nigga, we made it. Instead of going to $1 million worth of Game, the Drink Champs, Joe Budden's podcast, hell, even the Breakfast Club, even though that's not owned by us, but nonetheless, you go to these bigger platforms. But I can never knock the artist for wanting to go have more people hear their voice. And I think that's part of what Nore's missing. And Nore talks about how what he's done for the culture and how artists have treated him and this, that, and the third. And he talks about that no one's bigger than the culture. True. But what if you're trying to make your message bigger than the culture? Because if you're saying that no one's bigger than, I said that's true. That's not true. Fuck that. Beyonce's bigger than the culture. Jay-Z's bigger than the culture. Rihanna, bigger than the culture. Cardi B, now bigger than the culture. Kanye, bigger than the culture, okay? You know why? Because they're multicultural. It's not just the culture that they're a part of, right? They are part of the culture, but they also go tap into this culture and that culture and that culture. That's why they go to Letterman. That's why they go to Ellen. And everybody isn't the Jay-Z draw. Everybody's not the Beyonce draw. Everybody's not the Kanye draw that no matter where they go, they get a number, okay? So I understand where Nore's coming from, though, because I'd be like, dang, bro, y'all could come big up our platforms, right? Go talk on our platforms and give them the same information, if not more information, because guess what? These people were here with you before you had a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of. They were supporting you when they were up and you were on the come up. But then I asked the question, well, who's behind them? Who's pushing the message? And you sit here and you go, oh, well, they're signed to this label who has an agreement with this company, whose friend is running that company. You go, okay, it makes sense. We're all scratching each other's backs, and the artist gets what they need. They get the publicity that they need. They get the numbers that the label needs, and their friends get the hits, the interviews. I mean, the clicks, the ads, all of that stuff to get the money that they need. And you go, oh, makes sense. That's why you're banned from TV, Nore. And again, not literally banned from TV, but because what you want to happen is you want to see people who are part of the culture unionize and come together under one set of views. But the thing is, we don't have one set of views. And I can never knock somebody for trying to expand their horizons, expand their listener base by going and talking to people who are different. I think that you should go sit down with Nore. I think you should go sit down with Joe Budden. I think you should go sit down with $1 million worth of game. I enjoy those platforms. But I'm not going to knock you for going to sit down with Bill Simmons. I enjoyed Katie's conversations with Bill Simmons. I enjoyed what's my man Freddie Gibbs on Bill Simmons. I enjoyed Gucci Man on Bill Simmons, right? So to act like you can't go to places to expand what you're doing because you got to take care of the culture, I'm not with that. But what is the culture? Because when I think about what the culture is, we talk about hip hop culture and we try to blend hip hop culture with black culture. But we have to understand that everybody who is a part of black culture is not a part of hip hop culture. I was not raised in a house on hip hop culture. Now, I was raised in hip hop culture because of I was outside sometimes. And sometimes we're going to come back to that. But I was outside sometimes, so I became a product of hip hop culture. And then as I got older and older, I became more of a hip hop fan, more of a person who was enveloped in hip hop culture. But guess what? Some of that stuff they be like, oh, that's the culture. No, that ain't my culture. That's not my culture. It may very well be your culture, but understand, you don't speak for me. You don't speak for me because guess what? I didn't come from the streets. I'm not a criminal. I'm not a hood figure. I don't abide by those rules. I don't live that lifestyle. So some things y'all talk about, I can't relate. I don't want to. I got Gucci Man next to Stanley, right? I relate way more to Stanley than I do to Gucci Man. Because see, Stanley is the token black person in the office who has to deal with a bunch of stuff that he don't rock with. But he understands that he's put himself in this position to where, you know what, he's doing well for himself, making good money and all of that stuff, you know. And I understand Stanley. I've been Stanley. Hell, I am Stanley in my day job. Gucci Man? Him right there? Oh, no, what's that? What's that? There we go. There we go. Him right there? That ain't me. Can't relate. Never sold a brick. Never seen one. Never hit a lick. Don't want to. Never been to jail. Never been to prison. Ain't going. I'm a law-abiding citizen. Never snitch. Ooh, boy. Don't commit no crime around me that I didn't commit, because, let me tell you something. You're going to jail. I'm a civilian. I ain't choose that life. So I'm not going to act like I lived it. But sometimes I think what happens is that we try to make criminal culture and street culture black culture. And it's not. It may be part of black culture, but it's not black culture. It is not the culture. And if we continue to do that, that's what's gonna happen. And hey, NORE, you know what? Maybe people don't want to go to drink champs because they're not trying to get shitty drunk. Maybe people don't want to go to $1 million worth of game because they don't like the platform. Maybe people don't want to go talk to Joe because Joe don't want to talk to them. Maybe people would rather go talk to Oprah, rather go talk to Gail, because guess what? They do a good interview. And we get back to what is the culture? What is the culture of black media? Because so often what is popularized in black media is street shit. It's street culture. That's not our only culture. And when you listen to some of these interviews with people who are not of street culture, you go, all right, bro, it's boring. It's a boring interview because you got people talking about stuff that they don't relate to, or you got people trying to, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Now, I would have, you know what I mean? And no, I don't know what you mean, because I would have done it, and that's not my life. That's not the life that I profess to live. That's not the life that I want to live. And honestly, I don't want to be around people who are living that life. Call me crazy, but I'm not a criminal. That's what y'all call the culture. But our culture is much more. It is absolutely much more. And it's crazy that I'm having this topic because I saw a very interesting post, on the gram. And it was this young boy who, before I play it, I'm going to let you know, I didn't like his tone. But so what? A lot of y'all don't like my tone. But I like his content. Go, Young King.
Black people who grew up with money. Why do y'all hate black people who grew up with money? Let me make one thing clear. I grew up in a $500,000 house. I went to private school. I graduated from one of the top universities in the country. My job, you couldn't get it if you wanted to. My car note is more than your rent, no cosign. I mean, I can go on for days. But the moral of the story is, why would I want to relate or try to fit in with a lifestyle that I do not come from? Y'all don't think it's crazy that you equate blackness with poverty? And this is exactly why you have all these suburban kids running around here acting like they got it out the mud, like they were struggling, because you sit there and shame them for being from the South.
So yeah, my man's, I didn't grow up in a house that big. I spent some time in private school, my first 3 years of school, then my last 4 years, my undergraduate, I went to private school. Um, my car note is not more than your rent. It's not, or your mortgage, whatever you have. It's not. It's fairly affordable. Um, but I didn't get it out of the mud. I got it out of the books, and nobody will ever, 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 ever make me feel some type of way because I got it out of the books. I didn't get it out of the mud. I much rather learn about Black Wall Street than the block any day. I was much more interested in Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X than I ever was of Tukey Williams. You understand what I'm saying? Or Freeway Ricky Ross. You get where I'm coming from. But that doesn't mean I'm any more or less black than you are. Because our experience is multifaceted. I've talked about the black agenda is multidimensional. So when I come on here and I ask you what is the culture, I tell you, bro, it's American culture. Not the same as white American culture, but it's American culture. And it's different things. It's new slaves. It's Kanye talking about broke N-word racism versus rich N-word racism. And guess what? Somewhere in between, there's middle class racism. And some of it's black on black. Not all black on black crime gets documented. Not all black on black crime gets documented because sometimes if somebody didn't get it out the mud, you think they're less black than you are. But it's like, hold on. Excuse me? And that's a crime against humanity. That's a crime against black people because you decide that this person didn't go through the struggles that you went through. They had a bit more prosperous life. They had more successful parents than you, that they're less black than you. Get out of here. But that goes back to equating success and to whiteness. It goes back to equating academia to whiteness. It goes back to a self-loathing behavior because you can't see that black people are capable of much more than what we hold ourselves to. Now, some of us as a people, we say, oh no, bro, I'm more than a conqueror. But a lot of us want to go back to where we came from and go back to our roots and say, that is black culture. No, that is your black culture. Everybody black didn't come from the same thing. We're not cut from the same cloth. And that's not a bad thing. Y'all want to talk about the cloth. I'm cut from this cloth. I cut from that cloth. I was listening to Joe Budden talk on his podcast, his Saturday podcast, and they were making fun of Ice because Ice had a ride to school. He rode his bike to school. He couldn't go to the bodegas until he was a certain age. He didn't have to go through all that stuff they went through. He listened to his parents. He made good grades. And they like, Joe, like, I don't talk to people who did like that. Well, Joe, you're a high school dropout. Yes, you were successful. Yes, you were articulate. Yes, like you made it work for you. But just because you made that work does not mean that people are less than because they did not do that. Just because somebody doesn't make their road like more difficult, doesn't mean they're less than. Just because somebody did not experience what you experienced, did not rebel the way that you rebelled, did not live the way that you live, means that they're less than. It just means they have a different perspective. We all have different perspectives. Some perspectives are more relatable than others, and some aren't relatable. And guess what? There are some poor people who grew up in the hood who have a perspective I can't relate to. I can't relate to that perspective. I can relate to struggling, not having everything that you want. I can't relate to worried about where my next meal's coming from. I can't relate to not knowing if I'm going to be in this house again in the morning. I can't relate to that. But that doesn't mean that I can't relate to being treated differently because of the color of my skin. Doesn't mean that I can't relate to wanting something and not being able to get it because I don't have the means. That doesn't mean that I can't relate to, I don't know, walking into a room that you deserve to be in, that you've earned your way into, and somebody asking you, like, are you lost? Are you sure? You know how many times I've been in meetings at work and I'm the only person who knows what I'm talking about, and somebody goes, well, are you sure? Well, if I'm not sure, what the hell do you know that can like disprove what I just said? Nothing. Okay, then why the hell are you asking me questions? We all experience different things, but just because somebody doesn't struggle the way that you struggle doesn't mean that their struggle's not valid. It doesn't mean that their perspective isn't valid. No, I can't speak to life in the streets, and I don't want to. I don't want my kids to be able to. I grew up in the country on land. I want my kids to grow up in either the country on land or in the suburbs. Why? Because I work damn hard so that they can. So, black people, our culture is much more than criminal culture. We're more than that. Our culture is diverse, it's multifaceted, it's multi-layered. Some of us are here and some of us are there. But no matter where we are, oftentimes we experience some of the same issues. But just because somebody hasn't gone through what you went through doesn't mean their experience isn't valid. And just because somebody went through more than you went through doesn't mean that their experience makes them more black. Nah, look at my skin color. Some light skinned people who've done some more black things than I'll ever do. But when they see me, they see a nigga. But let's take a totally different, different, different approach here. Okay. Now we're about to totally switch it up, you know. I'm gonna pour me up a shot of Casa Noble Reposado. It's one of the best reposados I've ever had in my life. It was aged in bourbon barrels, so it has like a nice aftertaste to it. I feel like I'm stepping on my man's Gold Mouse Tommy and Shadow Clock by doing like a drinking podcast, but that's not what this show is. It's not a drinking show. It's just a show that I drink on. Okay, that's for all the homies. I ain't got well. I know some people who died, but I ain't gonna say I got no dead homies. R.I.P. to the dead homies. So
We ballin', big baby.
chased with a little ultra. Hopefully Mickey signs me. I can be Jimmy Butler's understudy. But cop accountability. With the mass shootings that we've had, I mean, I talk about Tulsa because it's a mass killing of black people. But then you go down to Texas and you have the Uvalde shooting, the mass murder of children in an elementary school. That's deep, man. Because you talk about kids who'll be forever afraid to go to school, parents who will forever be afraid to send their kids to school. People, I mean, shit, man. Sandy Hook, Columbine, El Paso, like it's getting to a point to where we've got to figure something out, and whatever we're doing is not working. And I keep seeing the little like, you know, little circle thing, the diagram saying that we're going to talk about it, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and then we're going to end up doing nothing. Yeah, you're right. That's what's going to happen. Is that what I accept? No. But I'm going to propose what we should do. Okay. Let's start with cop accountability. How do we hold law enforcement accountable? Because I remember sitting here on the same podcast 2 years ago talking about over aggressive cops and the unarmed killing of black men. And I go, what the hell is going on here? Like, guys unarmed, you made the wrong decision, but what ends up happening is if the cop is caught, if the cop is caught up for doing unlawful shooting, he may do some time, he may not, and then the taxpayers have to pay the family out. Okay, family gets something for their losses, but they never get their family member back. So, what are we really doing? And now we got a case of cops being under aggressive. You know, like, it's one man in there. It's 19 of them ready to kick open the door, but the signal caller, the quarterback, won't hike the ball, and it's like, what? Oops, sorry, wrong drop. And I mean, somebody in Uvalde should just walk into his office and be like,
"You're fired. You're fired. You're fired. You're fired. You're fired. You're fired."
Now, the person who just said that, he would never fire him because, you know, he was at the NRA convention just spouting nonsense. But that's a conversation for another day. So we have the chief of school police. He made the call not to breach the classroom. And he had spent many years in law enforcement. But I think that when you have a mass shooting going on in your school, I think when the actual police show up, they should have jurisdiction. I get it. He's chief of school police. I'm the man for the job. All right. Well, sometimes the job gets too big for you. And the bigger guns have to come in. Because who do you trust more? School police or police? I trust police more than school police, personally. And then eventually I think Border Patrol got involved. But nonetheless, who bears the brunt of the responsibility? Because ultimately the decision maker was the chief of school police. Now, he had 19 cops ready to make a move from everything that I've read. They were ready to go. They were ready to kick in the door and save those children. But the decision was not made to allow that to happen. There were rumors that cops went in, saved their kids, left other kids in there. I've not been able to validate that. So if that's true, fuck them. They're sick. But if that was just another story that took off, then it's 2022. Men lie, women lie, numbers do too. But when you think about it, and you got the school chief of police thinking about collateral damage and how many of his own he could lose, or how many of the local police that he could lose. That's a legitimate question, right? That's a legitimate thought. And I go, well, you take an oath to protect and serve. And in this environment, we're talking about protecting and serving children. Children in an elementary school who are being murdered by a sick son of a gun. You got to kick that door in. You got to get that janitor key. You got to do whatever it takes to get it done, because part of protecting and serving is putting your life on the line for others. The reason why public servants get discounts, the reason why public servants get free drinks, the reason why public servants get free meals, the reason why public servants get first class seats that they didn't pay for, the reason why public servants get handshakes and hugs when they go out in public is because they took an oath to do what everybody else was not willing to do. They said, hey, I will die for you just because you live here. I will put myself in harm's way to take you out of harm's way. And I don't know you from Tom, Dick, Harry, Larry, Mary, or whoever the hell it is, because that's what I wanted to do. I accept these discounts. I accept these great benefits. Why? Because I am willing to die for people I will never meet. I'm willing to die for people I will never talk to. I'm willing to die for people who may hate me. Let's not forget about the perks of being a public servant. Let's not forget about that, because guess what? That's what comes with the territory. So when you're using a technicality versus an active shooter, or a shooter who's barricaded and he's no longer a threat, nah, bruh. Nah, man. I don't think he'll make any more threats. Well, you got kids in the room still calling 911, so guess what? They're fucking scared. That means there's people still alive. You made the wrong decision. And then you have Stephen McCrow. I hope I said his name right. Sorry. Stephen McCrow come out and say, and I listened to him talk about it, like, hey, it wasn't my call, but the wrong decision was made. And now Uvalde Police Department and school district, y'all are no longer cooperating because y'all got mad that somebody called y'all out. That sounds like accountability to me. Sounds like some heads need to turn. Sound like some people need to get fired. Sound like some pensions need to go to cover some funerals. But we've got to find a way to hold cops accountable for bad decisions. Because again, sometimes you just made the wrong decision. Things happen. Collateral damage. That's real. But when you got people calling 911, you got kids calling 911, you know they're not able to do anything. You got your guys ready to go and they can't go. There needs to be some accountability. Y'all get upset when people talk about defund the police, but this right here is the prime reason why defund the police makes sense to those who believe in it. And personally, I agree with what defund the police actually means. I just don't agree with calling it defund the police, because we're not defunding the police. We are reallocating funds from the police. And I think that's important to say here. And I will always echo that on this platform. But when you go, bro, y'all got SWAT team type people, y'all got people with military type stuff, and y'all scared to go in here and knock off one person, kick in the door, wave in the fofo. Come on, man. And I'm making light of it, but I'm not making jokes about it because I'm serious. Like, it's one person in there. Y'all are the trained professionals. These are fucking children. I'm talking about children. I mean kids. I mean kids. I mean, can't stay at home by themselves. We just gonna leave them there? And now you're not cooperating because they called you out for something that's true? That's not accountability. And that's the problem. We need more cop accountability, because when there's bad police work, there needs to be a level of accountability that is applied to those police officers to ensure that they are operating at the highest standard possible. So when stuff like this is happening, we save lives. We save as many lives as possible. And I'm not one to say defund the police. And I'm not even one to say reallocate funds from the police. All I'm saying is properly allocate the funds to the proper training and the proper programs to ensure that our police can best protect and serve. You see what I'm saying? I'm here on both sides, like what makes sense. Because I'm going to go ahead and tell you, if they scared, they need to go to church. But if they're scared, I understand it. And I'm not even like mad. I'm not even like, for people to sit here and be like, well, that's their oath and they're just supposed to go in there. Like, man, yeah, you take the oath. But if you sitting there thinking like my life could be over, but at the same time, when you got police forces with M4s, ARs, high-end shotgun sniper rifles, flat Kevlar. That's what it's there for. It's there for you to go in there and engage and properly engage. Because when you see there are so many instances of unarmed people getting killed, but then when somebody's armed and there's hesitance and hesitance and hesitance and hesitance and hesitance and hesitance to go in there and get them, you go, oh shit, man. Y'all are exactly what I thought you were. You hide behind the badge, you hide behind the gun, but at the end of the day, you scary. You ain't made from what you say you made from. You're defined by your badge and your gun and your cuffs. Because the second somebody else, it ain't no fun when a rabbit's got the gun and the rabbit had the gun and the shot caller, the decision maker, was afraid that if he made that call, he wouldn't have no fun. But if that son bitch don't get fired and lose his pension, ain't no hope for humanity. But we need a resolution that doesn't come at the expense of taxpayers. And I don't want to hear about hardened schools. Because when you're hardened schools, you're taking accountability away from the creeps. Okay, and I think there needs to be some creep accountability here as well. Because specifically in the situation in Uvalde, Texas, you got the mom saying, like, don't judge my son. He had his reasons. I don't give a fuck. The reasons? The reasons that we're here. The reasons that we're here is that your son is a sick son of a bitch and he decided to express his anger and frustration on 18 children who did not have anything to do with what he was going through, and he killed them. That's the reason that we're here. That's his reason. You got Texas Governor Rick Barnes saying it could have been worse. What? I hope the next time you're up for re-election, you don't see another vote. You don't deserve it. You got hardened schools. Yeah, we can harden schools. I think that once the school day starts, there should only be primary entrances that are monitored. But at the same time, I don't want my 5-year-old, my 7-year-old, my 8-year-old walking into school looking at somebody with an AR or a M4 or an M16 or a shotgun. We're supposed to be a high-end society. That's not what I'm looking for. That's not the behavior that I want to see. But what do I know? I'm just a big baby, but hardening schools, I think that's cheap because that takes away the accountability from the creep. Okay, we got to hold the creep accountable, but I also think we can harden schools. Okay, I don't want y'all to think that I'm anti-hardening schools. I think there are multiple ways to get to where we need to go, and we need to attack each different thing. We need to attack each avenue of approach appropriately. So yes, we need to hold cops accountable because once that call is made, one call, that's all, and I need you to do your job. We need to hold schools accountable because we need to ensure that they're not being lazy and they have a heightened security posture, especially in the space that we're living in today. All right. But we got to hold the creeps accountable because when the creeps, they need to go to prison. You know? And you talk about what they say, give good guys guns. 19 police officers were ready to breach a door, and their boss man said no. So what happened with good guys having guns? Now, I did come on here last week and speak about the shooter being having an encounter with the school resource officer. I've since found out that was not true, but give good guys guns. At the NRA conference in Texas this past weekend, no guns were allowed. Holy shit. But these are the good guys with the guns. But guess what? We can't bring the guns in because we have a former president speaking. Shocking. You can have guns everywhere except for when you come see your guys. That's crazy. If give the good guys guns, there's going to be no problem. Why can't he have a gun? Because a gun's a problem. Well, he was bullied. I don't care. It's not an excuse for mass murder. Well, video games and desensitization of violence, yeah, that's a valid point, but it doesn't make it okay to go kill people. Well, what about mental health? It's your job to improve your mental health, just like it's your job to improve your physical health, your emotional health. It is your job to take care of you. Well, isolation and COVID, yeah, okay, cool. It is your job to find a way to get through these things. But none of this is accountability. What happened to no excuses? What happened to, well, if he wouldn't have pulled out a cell phone and he would have listened to the cop, he would have complied, he would have got killed. Nah, this motherfucker's killing. You understand what I'm saying? It's amazing how when something hits what we like, right? When our biases get involved, we can find all the excuses in the world to justify, or not even justify, but rationalize what's happened. An 18-year-old killing a bunch of elementary school children, there's no justification. There's no there's nothing you can tell me that makes me go, I mean, I can see where he's coming from, but I don't agree with him. Man, get out of here. If you was bullied and you was getting picked on, bro, go make jokes. Go make jokes about those people. Go fight them. I'm a firm believer in get funny or fight. One of the reasons why I am who I am, I used to get picked on. And sometimes I cried about it. And then I learned how to get funny so I wouldn't get picked on no more. It's called resilience. It's called problem solving. It's called living life. It's called figuring out how to deal with the woes of society and being able to live a life that is acceptable by standards. But as we continue to excuse things, as we continue to accept everything, and as we continue to no longer hold ourselves to a standard and hold people to a standard, we can rationalize anything and everything. And I can't rationalize killing. Like I came here and told y'all, bro, I don't need no more hate crime laws. For what? Murder is murder is murder. Murder, she wrote. If you write murder on my head, somebody better leave you dead. And if they don't, you need to be institutionalized. Penitentiary, mental health, physical health, a punishment. Because I don't ever want y'all to think that just because, like, I don't ever want y'all to think that I go away from my whole anybody can be rehabilitated. I still believe that. But I also believe that if you're going to rehabilitate people, you can still punish them. And you should still punish them. I mean, ultimately, this kid whose name I'm not going to say, he took the ultimate punishment. But what happened to the war against crime? We was so ready to lock folks up for weed, but then you got people over here making terroristic threats, buying army guns, and then we deal with it when it happens. They give us all the warning signs on social media, but all of a sudden, the algorithms don't know what's going on. Boy, that's crazy. You got Young Thug, Gunna and them dealing with Rico. And from everything I've read, if they really did what's alleged, Rico they ass. But how come we can't Rico these mass shooters? Are they acting independently? Maybe, maybe not. Are there others who are around them that know what's going on? Maybe we can't Rico them, but what about guilt by association? If somebody robbed somebody, right? Go rob the gas station, you in the car, you guilty just because you was in the car. Well, I didn't steal nothing. I didn't reap any of the benefits of this theft. I was just with them. So if you're a parent and your child goes and buys an AR-15 and then goes and fucks some shit up, they have posts on their social media accounts that lets you know that they're ready to go do something. At what point is it? Oh, he's 18. He's an adult. What? They live in your house. Shouldn't you have something to do with it? You know? Maybe there should be more gun control. I doubt it. I doubt that we get to a place where we have more gun control because, I want to start it with talking about guns and abortion, right? Because we talk about being pro-life and supporting life and not allowing people to take life even before life is truly given. And then we give somebody an AR-15. You can't have an abortion, but you can have an AR-15. So what life matters? Life that's living or life that's about to be lived? Because to this day, I have not found anybody explain to me why they needed an AR-15. I've talked about this multiple times on this podcast. And I used to say, hey, you don't need an AR-15, but this is United States of America. So keep your AR-15 and have at it. But now I'm getting to the point to where I'm like, maybe not. Maybe they should go. Maybe we should really tighten up our gun laws. Maybe we should tighten up like our gun regulations. Maybe we should, get rid of automatic and semi-automatic weapons. Maybe we should outlaw them. I know a gun recall will be tough, but what California has done, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. I mean, they have a waiting period. But I know gun control in this country will never happen. So what should we do? I think that we should vet people much longer. We should have a more in-depth vetting process. It should not be easier to it should not be easier to get your license than it is to buy a gun. It should not be easier. It should not be easier to buy a gun than it is to get your license. I was right the first time. It should not be easier to buy a Plan B than to get a gun. You should not be able to join the military at 18, not be able to buy a pistol at 21, but buy an AR-15 at the same age of 18. That doesn't make sense to me. Your insurance drops at 25 for a reason. Maybe that should be the age in which you can buy an AR-15 after having an extended wait until you can actually pick it up. Maybe, Chris Rock had a joke about, we sell them guns, but we make bullets $5,000. Maybe we should drive up the price of ammunition. Because, the harder it is to get the guns, the harder it is to get the ammo, I promise you, the harder it is to commit the crimes. So many people say we need more good people with guns, but guess what? A lot of good people don't want guns. Because if you have thorough laws that properly vet people, your good guys that you want to have guns who want them, they can easily go get them. But so often we think about trying to stop the bad people and how we can stop the bad people, but what we do is we enable them. But I get it. Gun control is necessary, but it won't happen in this country. Why? Because we were built on a revolution from an oppressive government. And there is a natural distrust of government that comes with being an American. And I say not a total distrust of government, but of large government, of oppressive government. And when certain people feel that they're being oppressed by the government, they want to have the means to rebel. Now, little do they know, if the United States, if the DOD decides to, just say there's a rebellion, a legitimate rebellion in modern America, the DOD will squash it in days. The capabilities that our military has far surpasses the capabilities of any hometown militia. Hell, I mean, come on, man. Are we serious? But there's a distrust of government. There's a distrust of people. There's this fear. There's also hunt, and I hunt with my AR. Well, shoot better. So the reform that we want is just not going to happen in this country just because of the ethos of this country. But if that's the case, how do we find an answer? We just got to make it more difficult. We got to add a waiting process. We have to increase the prices of ammunition. I think we should get rid of AR-15s because, again, I've yet to have somebody explain to me why they needed an AR-15. They just wanted it. So I think we throw those out the window. And I think our life gets better. I think we look at other countries around the world and see the lack of crime that they have there. I mean, I've lived outside of this country, and the way that people would think life was where I lived at, it was much more safe than America. It was supremely more safe than America. I mean, I never locked my door, and I never left thinking that I would get robbed or somebody would be there waiting on me. But you also couldn't have firearms in that country. Tell you what, boy. People be like, hey, we need more guns to keep us safe from people with guns. Well, what if nobody has guns?
We ballin', big baby.
That's crazy, but America's gonna America. And as somebody who owns firearms, like I'm not anti-firearm. I'm not anti-Second Amendment. I just think we need to, create some boundaries within it, similar to what I see going with the NIL. I think the NIL needs some boundaries, just like the transfer portal needs boundaries. I've talked about it on this podcast, but what I really want to get at today is we've had the SEC spring meetings, media day, all that stuff going on. And I kind of want to talk about some stuff because, I'm a big SEC fan. Although I'm not an Alabama fan, I am a Nick Saban fan because Nick Saban runs a top-notch program. He demands success and excellence from his players, and that's something that I like to do. That's something that I like to do for myself and those around me. So I have a immense amount of respect for Nick Saban. So I listen to Colin Cowherd daily. And Cowherd came out talking about what Saban had to say, where Saban kind of came back and was like, hey, look, I didn't say that anybody did anything wrong. I shouldn't have called out other programs. But what I want in college football is, some regulation on the NIL, and I want some parity in the game. So for starters, I don't think Saban wants parity at all. I think he wants a level playing field because he knows that with a level playing field, he is better than his competition and he will continue to dominate college football the way he has. Because if anybody thinks that a player is going to get coached up better by Jimbo Fisher and Texas A&M than he will by a Nick Saban staff at the University of Alabama, they're absolutely crazy. But what I think Nick Saban was asking for is actually, it benefits Saban because he knows he's better than his competitors at the actual job itself. And he has the resume and he has the relationships to get people to understand that when he says, hey, I want regulations on NIL, not because I want to stop you from getting money, because you're going to get your money. But we want to make sure that the right players are coached properly and these guys have their best chance to succeed. I truly believe that. But, Colin Cowherd, he came and look, I'm a huge fan of Colin, right? Love Colin. But I just disagree with Colin today. And I'm saying all of that just because I'm going to post this on YouTube and God forbid it gets to him. I don't want to be the guy punching up just to be a dickhead for clout, right? And that's not me. But it's interesting that he talked about it being a control thing and Saban being worried about losing control of the players. And then thinking about, what can happen in Texas, what can happen in California at USC. And I go, yeah, absolutely right. But I find it very convenient that you're going to use an argument against somebody that you've used. You want controls on the transfer portal, Colin. You want controls on NIL. You want players to be on campus for a set number of games before they can get a check. So when Saban talks about, hey, we need some parity here, we need some regulations, who are you to call him out? And all I think it does is it creates a narrative that bolsters up your guy, Lincoln Riley. Because what you want to do is you want to funnel more players to USC. I mean, word around town, you're a USC booster. And if you're not a USC booster, well, you are doing a lot to speak to USC and ensure that they are more successful. You have a multi-million listener platform. So, yeah, dude, I get what you're doing. Trying to big up your guy. But me, as somebody who likes you, listens to you, and listens to different media members, I love to try to find people in the media's like slant, right? What point are you trying to make, and what's your end state here with this conversation? What's your end state with this rant? What's your end state with this segment? And I go, you're trying to make Nick Saban look like he wants to control his players. Not that he's anti-NIL, but he's just an old curmudgeon. And then you're going to big up Lincoln Riley tomorrow or in a totally separate segment, and talk about how USC has this money. And yeah, they're embracing NIL. You know good and damn well Alabama's embracing NIL. Alabama was embracing NIL before NIL was a thing. You hit Saban for gray shirting. Them gray shirts came with bags in it, and we know that. And yes, Saban's trying to just level the playing field because he doesn't have Texas money, oil money. He doesn't have Hollywood money. But the thing is, he's just better. He's better than Jimbo. He's better than Sark. He's better than Lincoln. He has a better track record. I'd much rather my son go be a backup at Nick Saban's program or play 4 years at a Nick Saban program, possibly play 5 years at a Nick Saban program, than go play at any of these other programs, because it's kind of like the Pete Carroll USC thing. What's my man's name? Matt Castle. Matt Castle got like no burn at USC, and he started one season for the Pats and went and got a bag in the NFL. Why? Only because he played at Pete Carroll's USC. That's what happens at Nick Saban's Alabama. We look at Lincoln Riley. We talk about him being this quarterback whisperer, and we go, Baker, number 1 pick. Disappointing. Kyler Murray, number 1 pick. His team doesn't want to pay him what he wants, and they shouldn't. And then you got Jalen Hurts, his reclamation project, who may turn out to be the better quarterback, but guess what? Where he came from? Saban land. And then you got Spencer Rattler, who had to transfer to South Carolina. We don't know what he's going to be. And Caleb Williams, a transcendent talent who looked good at Oklahoma. He's going to be at USC, and we're going to see what he's going to be over the next 2 seasons, but we don't know. I think that Lincoln Riley is, I'm going to put Lincoln Riley in the Luka and Nikola Jokic conversation. Maybe we can give him a little James Harden vibes, really flashy on the offense. It looks so good. We like it, but I don't know if it's championship material. Ooh, I like that one. Yeah. Lincoln Riley is Luka, Jokic, and James Harden. Great offensive game. We really like to watch it, but let's talk about championships, man. When we talk about championships, we talk about the stuff that Nick's doing. We talk about the stuff that Kirby's doing, the stuff that hurts, the trenches. SEC football, baby. I'm sorry. Lincoln Riley's going to have quarterback set, throw great passing numbers at USC. But if you don't clean up them trenches,
you're fired. You're fired. You're fired. You're fired. You're fired. You're fired.
He ran from the SEC for a reason. Come on now. Let's talk real quick about the NBA playoffs. I want to start with Jimmy Butler and his pull-up 3 in Game 7. That was the right decision. The Heat were going on a run. If you watch the game, Jimmy wasn't getting great touches at that point in time. The offense was fairly stagnant. He played 48 minutes that game. He played 46 minutes the game before. He had a 40-plus point game. He had a 35-point game, and he was like, hey, I'm trying to end this. The right answer is end this. The right answer is not like, oh, let's play for overtime. We're the home team. No, we're undermanned. Tyler Hero, our second best scorer. Some good nights, our best scorer is not here. He can't play. No, we need to end this right now. He had an open transition 3. Some say, well, he was open for a reason. Damn near a fast break. Or maybe he should have drove to the basket and got fouled. They probably weren't going to call it. He wanted to win the game, and we want our big players to make big plays, and that's what Jimmy did. Jimmy made the right decision. On to Steph Curry. There's been a conversation about Steph Curry needing to win the Finals MVP to solidify his legacy. And some say, no, he doesn't. For me, he doesn't. Look, Steph is LeBron's rival, not Kevin Durant, not Kobe. No, Steph is LeBron's rival, okay? But I think Steph needs to win this Finals MVP for those people who aren't me, those who did not watch Steph's career. So when they go back and look at the stats and stuff, they understand. Like, okay, he got the Finals MVP. The first one was like, why did he not? Iguodala? I don't know. KD, okay, that makes sense. But then he goes and wins the Finals MVP this year. Oh, okay, yeah, comes full circle. Yeah, that makes sense. Again, I don't think he needs it for his legacy. I don't think he needs it for his legacy for those who watched him, but I think he needs it for his legacy for this next generation of sports talking heads who have not watched him. That's why I think he needs it, because I understand what Steph brought to the game. I understand how Steph revolutionized the game. So, I mean, hell, I know who Steph is. He's a top 10 player of my lifetime. I would like to throw him in the top 10 of the modern era. But, yeah. What else? We got Katie and Kyrie. Katie and Kyrie being, they should feel sick about what's happening because their 2 former teams are in the finals. KD and Kyrie made a decision that was bigger than basketball. It wasn't about basketball, the decision that they made, so that's why they made those decisions. You can disagree with the decisions, you can agree with the decisions. I could honestly care less, but their decisions were bigger than basketball. So if you don't understand that it was a bigger than basketball decision from a guy, Kevin Durant, who has 2 rings and 2 finals MVPs, Kyrie, who has 1 ring and hit one of the most clutch shots of all time, and these guys are friends. They wanted to move to New York and play together. If you can't like put that together, I don't think you understand people. And if you listen to Katie talk about what it felt like to win a ring, it didn't feel as good as he thought it would. So it's like, okay, let me make my life as best as possible. Pretty much what it was. But if you don't get that, because you got to talk about sports all day, every day, and create like these fucking fake narratives just because you have a show to do, that's what you're going to do. But if you know KD, if you know Kyrie and what they say publicly, I can't talk to what they say privately, but if you know what they say publicly, this move was more than just a basketball move, because you know good and damn well both of them understood the basketball players that they were playing with, the infrastructure that they had, and how that could long-term play out into a high-end level of basketball. But also, you have to understand that like they are some of the best at what they do. So their supreme level of confidence could maybe cloud through judgment. But either way, like trying to knock KD or not Kyrie for what's happening right now, it's cheap, it's easy TV, but that's what y'all media people like to do, and that's why I want to take y'all's jobs. If we're being honest. But yeah, I feel like I had a good podcast. I'm coming back with y'all tomorrow with Parlay Pete. We're gonna talk some good noise. Big baby out.